Okay, chapter 7.3, the unit circle. This is pages 8 and 9 of the notes. So on page 8, so typically in a class, if we were meeting face to face, we would talk about how to build the unit circle. I have linked a couple videos that I found helpful on the next page. You can go through and watch those. I'm not going to have you sit through this if this makes sense, or sit through that if this makes sense to you. So notice here I've pre-highlighted these 3 triangles. As much fun as I know it is to watch me draw on this, didn't want to use your time for that. We have got the light blue triangle. When it says a 30-degree, see how it's got 30 degrees on the hypotenuse there? That 30 refers to the angle that's being made at the origin. So that's our 30-degree angle. That red triangle is our 45-degree angle, so 45, 45, 90. And then the gray triangle is labeled 60 degrees. That 60 degrees is that angle at the origin. So when we talk about 30 degrees, 45 degrees, 60 degrees, we are talking about the angle that is made at the origin. Okay, so I'm going to pop over really quick to the next page, and we're going to come back to this in a minute so we can look at something. But notice that I have redrawn these triangles here. Okay, so there's our right angle. This is our 30-degree angle, which makes this our 60. Keep in mind, we are still talking about those special right triangles. Okay. Hypotenuse is 1. Short leg is 1/2. Long leg is square root of 3 over 2. Because of the way this is oriented, we're in that first quadrant. Both x and y are positive. Again, I'm going to pick this point. To get there, I would go over square root of 3, up 1/2. So this coordinate, the coordinates for this point are positive square root of 3 over 2, positive 1/2. You guys keep in mind we're talking about the coordinate plane, x, y. Okay? So real quick, we're going to go back to this unit circle, and I want you to notice something here. Let's change this highlighter color again. So that 30, 60, 90 triangle that is in the first quadrant, when we talked about reference angles, here's that 30, 60, 90 triangle in the second quadrant. Because we're reflecting over the y-axis, you guys, this coordinate point's exactly the same values as in the first quadrant. We've got a negative x and a positive y. Okay, so we're going to use the symmetries across the y-axis, across the x-axis, to make sense of what we've got going on. So here's our next one. In the third quadrant, we go 30 degrees down. We get to 270. There's my right angle. Notice the coordinates are exactly the same. The magnitude, the size, square root of 3 over 2, 1/2. We're in the third quadrant now, though, so both the x and the y are negative. If we take a look at the fourth quadrant here, you notice the size of the x and the y are the same, square root of 3 over 2, 1/2. X is positive, y is negative because we are in the fourth quadrant. Okay, so you can use these symmetries to build the circle all the way around. And we're going to go back real quick to the next page, and then we're going to come back and look at some patterns in this. So here's our 45, 45, 90 right triangle. We got a 45 here and a 45-degree angle right here. Again, our hypotenuse is 1. The lengths of the sides are square root of 2 over 2, square root of 2 over 2. So again, this point that's going to end up falling right on that unit circle, I don't know what's going on, square root of 2 over 2, square root of 2 over 2, again, x, y. Boom. Our last triangle here, 60 degrees, 30 degrees, hypotenuse is 1. That hypotenuse of 1 is really important. Keep in mind we talked about the unit circle, so the distance from the center to any point on the circle is going to be 1, which means when I look for these coordinates, this little bit up here, that's the point that actually is lying on the unit circle. So this is our 60, 30, 90. I'm going to call it a little different. 60 is at that origin. So I know the lengths of the sides. So the coordinates for this point, 1/2, square root of 3 over 2, again, x and y. Okay, that's going to be really useful as we go down here and take a look at those values in terms of our right triangle trig definitions. Okay, so exercise 10 here. In a unit circle, the radius is 1. Again, that is why we labeled every single hypotenuse with a length 1. Okay, if that is the case, that means that when I talk about the sine, it's the opposite over the hypotenuse or the opposite over 1. Makes it really easy for us. Okay, so here, unit circle definition, this hypotenuse should be 1, and so I realized that the notes that I have in there look a little different. We're just going to call this a circle definition. Okay. Keep in mind in the unit circle that r is always 1. Our sine then is the opposite side over the hypotenuse, so y over r. Our cosine adjacent over hypotenuse. Our tangent opposite over adjacent. Sorry, that's a y over x. Can only make this font size go so small, and it's all fat and happy. Cosecant, r over y. Secant, r over x. And our cotangent then, x over y. I apologize for my alarm going off. Okay, last thing we want to do, go back to that unit circle and look at some of the patterns. You guys, here is what I want you to notice. If I take a look at my x coordinates, okay, x goes from 1 to square root of 3 over 2, square root of 2 over 2, 1 over 2, which basically is the square root of 1 over 2, and then 0 over 2, so the square root of 0 over 2. So if you know what the x's and y's are here on the axes, you can make sense of what is happening with the x and y values. Notice that the y's go the opposite direction. They start at 0, goes to, so 0, square root of 0 over 2, right? 1/2, square root of 1 over 2, square root of 2 over 2, square root of 3 over 2, square root of 4 over 2, which would be 2 over 2, which is 1. So there are some nice patterns here that also help us build the unit circle.